I'll start this video with some old school philosophy, and I mean way old school, as in a person from before the 18 or 1700s, basically saying that the answer is somewhere inside a box, or something to that effect. And yes, it is in this case. This is, as we can tell by the name, an HP Omen desktop. Now, this is an interesting purchase to be made. No, I haven't lost my mind and paid some scalper $1 bazillion for a brand new one with a graphics card. I've actually bought myself one of these that had its graphics card shucked and or removed, and I'm now going to reuse this as my own desktop, with a few tricks I've picked up along the way. For those of you wondering why this is happening so much, well, yeah, I know the pandemic's been around and everything else, so I'll go and I'll put a little background in here. Essentially, what's been going on is because graphics cards are needed for mining and because the supplies to build them have become ever so rare, gamers and miners alike have been taken to just basically buying the actual gaming rigs like this one with the graphics card installed just to get the graphics card on the unit, and then turning around and selling off the chassis on eBay for whatever they can get for it, the remaining components, or in some cases just the tower. This one is still equipped with all of its components except the graphics card, so it's a great starting point for a unit. And again, starting point, I'm going to do some major work to this to turn it into a really decent gaming system. And again, of course, the reason why is, well, supplies to get a new computer built are almost impossible to come by, A, and B, I don't have as much time, so this will make it for a much quicker turnaround. I thought I was getting the mouse and keyboard with this, but apparently not, so oh well. Too bad, so sad. I'm committed at this point to owning it, so let's see what we have. As you can see, this is no boring desktop, to put it mildly. It's very sleek looking. The galvanized glass, I believe it is, treated in here. It's got a very sleek front with a fan on the front here. Two vents on the side to draw the air in. And here is the business end of this unit. We have the Omen motherboard, the Omen heatsink, and everything else. Now, obviously, I can't leave well enough alone, and as we can see here, the graphics card, which should be in that slot right there, which I'll zoom in on a little bit more, which is the PCIe slot, is nowhere to be found because, again, this was shucked and or defanged, as I call it, by the previous owner. So how am I going to fix this? Well, to start with, I'm going to actually do some other upgrades before I drop the graphics card in here. Mainly, this particular cooling system here. These are known, you'd think they'd be adequate, but they're known for running the CPU at 90C, and that's even with the AMD version that I have here. This is a Ryzen 5 5700X. Anyway, it's known for running these even at 90C, which is not acceptable, so what I'm going to do is upgrade this to water-cooled. Now, there are several catches to doing water cooling on a unit like this. You're going to have to pull the motherboard, and in order to do that, you're going to have to disconnect all the wires and any connections to it, pull the whole thing out of the case. Why? Because you got to replace the backing plate to make it fit. That's one option, and I was all set to do that until I realized that there was a default water cooling option for this case, and I was able to get what appears to be the correct one for it. This is a stock Omen cooler designed to fit this case. Let me go pull it right out here for you. So in addition to making everything fit and not requiring me to mess around with a lot of things, this will go right into the stock settings and it will fit exactly as it should. The only catch is this particular one is designed for an Intel setup, not the AMD. So what I'm going to have to do now is check to see if this would in fact fit here. No time like the present. So, to get in here, I'm going to push this little tab in the back that says internal access, which is actually pretty cool. A lot of people have pointed this out. Press this in. Press this in. All right, does this swing or does it come straight out? Oh, there it is. Oh, scared the hell out of me. Looks like someone didn't put it back in right. Galvanized glass here. Let's put that someplace safe where it doesn't get scratched. Right on top of my blanket should be fine. That's nice and soft. There we go. And there we are. So first step is to get the old heatsink off of here. So, my famous Stanley screwdriver. Just going to undo these 4 screws and take this off. And if my guess is correct, I should be able to quite literally take this, if it fit correctly. Ooh, these are hex heads, it looks like. Let me go get my hex head screwdriver. Let me adjust you guys so you can see. Again, nothing much to it here. I'm just going to undo these counterclockwise until they come out. And once they're out, I can then pull the heatsink off and get to the bottom of it. And get literally to the processor. I should mention the cost on this isn't too bad. An aftermarket heatsink would get you about $50. This cost me $59. So because it'll hopefully save me the effort of having to pull the motherboard out and change out the backing plate, that's worthy of investment in my opinion. An extra $10 for that much agony reduced. Yeah, I'll pay that happily. Okay, that's loose. Let's now get this one off. Pardon the rough angles here. I'm just having to tighten it up. I don't want to damage anything. And there we go. It's off. A lot of heatsink paste on this. I'm going to leave that paste in place for the time being because I'm only doing a test fit right now. I don't know if this is actually going to work. I have to go through the wiring system here and figure out how this connects to anything. Oh, it's got this little extension adapter here. So let me go pull that without damaging anything. Here's the adapter right back here. I'm going to go now pull this connection. See if that's got a snap holding it in place, or is it just a pull? I think it's just a pull. Or is it a snap? Oh, a snap. There we go. Yeah, it is a pull. Okay. Okay, so I ran into a very strange quirk. There is this really weird wire right over here. Let me get actually a little bit more light on the situation. There is this straight wire here, which apparently was connected to the CPU somehow, and I don't know what it's for. It doesn't have any kind of label on it. It's just this stray wire, which apparently was connected to the heatsink system, the heatsink, and I don't have any kind of diagram showing me what this is from. As it turns out, this was a connection for the Wi-Fi antenna. I just insulated it with electrical tape, and I never had any further issues with it. Anyway, let's get going with this and see if the heatsink will fit. So now I'm going to try placing this right over where the CPU is without taking off the paste, because again, I don't want anything to get scratched. Logic being very simple. So if I can remember how the orientation goes on this, I'm going to have to look probably on the internet to check this out. But this is essentially how it goes in. I have to remove the top radiator portion. But first I have to see, I think this is how it goes in. Yeah, that's how it goes in. Let's see if this actually fits. These apparently are adjustable for different points. If it goes in, great. If it not, I'm screwed. And oh, it looks like it's going to fit. Yep, there it is. It does fit. Yes! So I am right. This is the Intel version of this heatsink is the same as the AMD. Only difference, one is for the Intel and one is for the AMD. Which works, I guess. Okay, so now I just got to get this out of here again. Looks like it started to tie itself in. These are the same hex head. Are these hex heads again, or? Okay, yep, that seems fine. Okay, so now that settles that, so I can use this. That's a very good news for me. I'm going to go now and do some upgrades to that radiator before I install it. As it turns out, unfortunately, the updated fan, which was going to have a higher CFM rating as well as RGB, turned out to be a mistake. It was actually weaker than the stock fan, so I ended up just using that. Okay, I got the screwdriver. Don't ask me why I couldn't find it. Going to remove this top piece now because this is where the radiator is going to mount. I'm actually not going to have to punch this out as you've seen many other YouTubers do in doing this and other such people, because in my case, my radiator actually came with a top radiator assembly. It looks like someone just literally ripped it out very quickly, and that's actually going to help me out because I don't have to do as much assembly. Okay, so here's this front panel. They say you're supposed to punch these 4 sections out now to get this done. However, if we take a look at mine, it already has this panel on top of it. If you look right here, see? It's got this whole panel all punched out and set to go. So I should just be able to literally put this back in place the way the other one was, and it should just go right in place. Because as you can see again, it's got the panel on top of it, which is exactly the same as this. The only difference is it's all punched out and ready to go. So again, there's that one, there's this one. Let me zoom out a little bit more. Sorry for the rough camera work. But again, that's what comes with the radiator. That's what came with my radiator. This is the stock part, so it should just literally drop in place from what I can tell. And if that's the case, I don't need to do anything else except put this back down. And also try not to break the cables. Another advantage of having this like it is that I don't need to worry about this thing not fitting perfectly, because it has the perfect size, because it's designed to go in one of these. Before I go any further, I've decided that I should actually probably put the heatsink compound on, because I'm going to be smart for a change. This is Nothing too fancy. It's TM30 from Corsair. Bought it off the shelf at, what do you call it? Not Walmart, Best Buy a while back. Nothing too big a deal here. Zoom in a bit here for you so I can show you what I'm up to. Okay, so now, how I usually like to do this is I put just a line across the bottom. People have been smearing this around, and that apparently is the new thing to do, new way of doing things. I found this works very well. Whatever you do, don't smear it, if you will, with my, pardon my German, with your finger, because what that will do is leave, again, oils that will in turn act like a barrier to the heat sink and not allow this paste to do its job, which is to help conduct heat. And what you'll get is essentially an oven, if you will, where the actual compound can't conduct heat, and you'll be stuck with a scenario where you actually don't have the heat sink stuff doing its job, and it'll in fact do the opposite and just cause the heat sink compound to pile up in there. Just going to use a paper towel now. Again, as I also mentioned, I guess you saw this before, but I used isopropylene alcohol to clean off everything before I proceeded, and you can probably tell that from how this looks now. Now it's nice and clean. Now I'm ready to test fit everything. So this, from what I've seen on the YouTube videos and all the other schematics, has to go like this with the, I'll try to show this to you, with the tubes going to the right of the cooler, like so. Believe that's correct. And then this has to go into the, this is the actual, goes into the thing. Again, this is the standard water block. There's no lights on the bottom of it. So this is going to be a little unusual in that regard. I'm going to line up all four of these posts here, screw them down, and then I'm going to put the radiator in place. So I don't want to get, the reason why I'm doing it this way is I don't want to scratch the actual base. Oh, it might have had the right screwdriver. There we go. The reason why I'm doing it this way is I don't want to actually scratch the copper compound, the copper CPU heat plate on the bottom of this block, because if I do that, it'll be permanently damaged. So I'd rather do it awkwardly and not get this thing scratched, rather than be a little bit more conveniently and just scratch it and have to buy another one or suffer with reduced performance. Which, if you're going through this much trouble to upgrade this, you don't want reduced performance. So I'm going to start now in a spiral pattern, doing a few turns on each screw until I get it down. And so, after consulting several geek websites and a few German joke books, I have confirmed that this is in fact how this is supposed to go in. This is how it's supposed to be. So, okay. Now I have to wrestle it into place. Ooh, it's stuck here. It's caught on the lip of the case right now. It's got to go down and then it's got to go up. Okay, that's good. Now that's sort of in position. I need to make sure my wires aren't trapped because I don't want to break the wires, even though the addressable one will not work. I may have to take this out again and change the fan. I may just leave it like that. I have to see how I feel. Now where the heck can I not figure out where the heck these screws go in? I hope I don't break anything. Oh god, this is nerve-wracking. Okay, there it is. That's in, I think, sort of. So I had to figure out how this damn thing sits in here. Is there a slot this thing goes in? Is there a slot down there? No, it just literally hangs in there. I see there are 2 points right there that lock in on the base of it. Oh god, this is a pain in the neck to work with. If I don't break these cables, I'll be happy. But then again, if it doesn't work and I don't break these cables, I still won't be happy, but just not as angry, I guess. Oh god. Okay, I think I got it. Now I got it. Okay. Yeah, that appears to be it. Boy, this thing gave me a pain. I have to admit, not for nothing, even for what as difficult as this was to get in, it wasn't that bad. I've had much more challenging installs. But then again, it's HP for you. I like how I've always liked how they keep things open and they make things very easy to modify and tweak. So I'm just going to put 2 screws back in here. 1. Going to go all the way down with this one. And 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see here. This is magnetic tip. Oh, good. This is a magnetic tip screwdriver, so I can get it into that gap and just wrestle it in place. Okay. There we are. We're in. And now this one is kind of loose, I think. Come in, and you are in. Okay, so there's my new water cooling system all installed. I've now installed my heatsink cooling system. Tomorrow I'm going to pick this up again. I'm going to go ahead and install more RAM to it. I'm going to swap out this fan. In fact, I think tonight I got time for this. Let me get my fan. Let me get this fan out of here. This is again a stock Omen fan. Nothing wrong with it per se, except I'd like to get an addressable one in there with LED. Whether this will be addressable is another question. Really kind of sucks. I wish I'd known that this was such a pain. I may have to go and look for Omen addressable LED fans for this, but I'm not sure they actually make one. Guess the next time I'm gonna go Christmas shopping here soon, I guess it's a good time to ask when I'm in the store. Maybe I would stop by Best Buy and say, hey, what about an addressable cooling fan? And it's now the next day, and I'm back on this project yet again. And unfortunately, I've run into a bit of bad news. It's actually quite a great bit of bad news. I will not be able to hook up either one of these fans to RGB. The reason being is that there is no adapter for the proprietary RGB hub over here, and I was hoping there'd be something. You'd think there would be something, but apparently not. So as the end result of that, I will not be able to basically make it work off the RGB hub. Now, as for the other idea to use the actual headers off the motherboard, well, they were there, but HP removed them, so that's not going to work either, so that knocks that option out. And as we're going third party, which would mean hooking up a Molex connector, the power supply has all of the Molex connectors removed. So right there, all of my solutions have basically been removed as far as I can tell. If there is a Molex connector on it, I don't see it. It looks like this is the variation of this case that doesn't have one. I've gone up and down the entire case. I've looked through everything. There are no Molex connectors with this particular version of this power supply, which is the 600 watt, which might explain why I don't have them. So, with all that in mind, I now am going to abandon the LED concept for the time being. I might replace this top fan because I'm hearing bad things about it now after doing more research on it with a permanent red LED fan from Cooler Master, again, that's designed to be a Radiator fan, just to give it more color, but that's basically all I will do at the most. Because right now, unfortunately, I don't have any other options to work with at this point, because there are no Molex connectors on this motherboard or power supply, anywhere I can find at least. So, with that gutting information out of the way, it's still a bit of a rat's nest in here. That I'm going to handle. I've got a splitter coming in that's going to be a two-way splitter that's going to just allow me to hook the fan and the block up to one connection. I've already put that on order so I can get rid of this four-way splitter and ditch some of the wiring in here. And I'm now going to basically focus on beyond that, just getting this computer up and running. Obviously, it still needs a graphics card, which I will be plugging in now. I'm going to show that to you. And some RAM, which is what I'm actually going to do first. And here it is. I wanted to try to get this close to what I have here as possible, but I don't think I managed to pull it off. This is HyperX RAM, which is what comes with the unit. There's only 8 gigs in here, which is just not going to cut it. And this, incidentally, I should also note this is actually the slightly better motherboard with the 4 slots. So really, I'd be nuts and it'd be sort of insane not to take advantage of it. And so for that, I have come up with this. This is another 8 gigs of HyperX memory, as far as I know, but I don't think it's the illuminated type. Apparently HP, I'm told, actually owns Kingston's HyperX division, which I don't understand how that makes sense. Most likely, I think the person who gave me that info was confused. They just got this sort of line of memory being built for them custom by Kingston. I doubt they own a whole memory company. That's highly unlikely. It's possible, I mean, but yeah. So let's go through here and get this open. And here it is. It is HyperX memory, but it's not LED, unfortunately, which is what I was afraid of. So what I think I might do now when I'm in Best Buy during Christmas shopping, just get myself a 16 gig kit of RGB capable RAM and just plug it right in place. Meantime, I'm going to use this because I have it. Didn't cost me too much money. I think I paid 30 or 40 bucks online to get it. Going to go for dual channel mode on this, which means, in addition to not hopefully breaking my slots here, you want to make sure it goes into this slot right over here, the second of the two. So again, I have the one on the front there, which is I have got this one over here. So I'm going to move this one into the slot to the first slot of the next, which will allow the dual channel mode to function on the processor. This is very critical because it'll allow the CPU to process twice the memory it would normally be able to process at once. Okay, take 2 on the RAM. I've already lined it up. All you do is you open the clasps, line the clasps up as such. These things on the sides here, with the center dot in the middle of this little notch, and then gently apply pressure. And hopefully it will lock. There it goes. Make sure that both clips lock into place. And there we are. I now have dual channels, 16 gigs total on the unit. The compatibility shouldn't be an issue because it's the same brand A and B. It's DDR4 RAM, not 3, and DDR4 tends to be much more forgiving in terms of compatibility. Now let's move on to the graphics card, and I've got something special for this. Graphics cards have been very difficult to come by, obviously, in this day and age. All that said, I have here my solution to the problem. This is an RX 660 XT. I managed to get this at something resembling a reasonable price, and it's what made this whole project possible. What happened with this came from Newegg. What Newegg has been doing is, while they've been increasing the prices on some of these components, what they've also been offering is, if you're willing to buy a motherboard with the part, you'll pay an extra markup, but the markup will also include the price of the motherboard. So instead of just paying that much for the graphics card alone, you get the motherboard thrown in, which is pretty cool, and it actually came in handy. I have another video which should be up by the time this video is posted, where I was rebuilding my other computer for editing, and the board was not going to support the processor I had bought for it, and I had that board, so I just swapped it in, and it came in very handy and really paid off. Total price for this combo, I think, was $600 and some odd before shipping and taxes. So yeah, not cheap still. And this graphics card, again, the XT is not the 660 XT, the RX 660 XT isn't the fastest gun in the West. It's still nonetheless a lot more respectable than some of the economy cards out there, and more importantly, it's new. I have a card from the system I'm looking to replace this with that's available, but it would take much more power to run, and it's also been around for quite a few years already, so I'm not sure how good it would last forever. So, to get this installed, I'm going to ground myself again, open this static packet. It's going to go right into this silver slot you see right there on your screen below the heatsink. Well, what's also interesting is this is, again, an AMD card, or ATI, which is owned by AMD, which means I'm quite literally going to be building myself what's called a spider platform, as they used to call them. This is to say all AMD graphics and AMD processor. Oh, I should mention the RAM, that's also 3200 megahertz, just like the other RAM DIMM is, so I maximize performance out of it. But again, I think I'm going to be changing that out now because I can't get any other LED performance out of this thing. So here we are. There it is. Pick it up, turn it around, face the back of the case, and it doesn't fit. Good. Oh, wait a minute. Hold it up. More headaches again. Oh, there's a bracket right here. I think I can remove this bracket. Let me go get this out of here. Put this back in its bag before it gets shocked. Ugh. So very clearly, I can tell immediately that this unit was the really low-end graphics card because it has this bracket on the back over here, which luckily is removable right over here. I know it is because you can get a 3070 with it, and you wouldn't be able to fit a 3070 with this thing in the way. I don't know why they even put this darn thing in place here. I think that's actually a support bracket, so I think I can reattach it once I get this thing out of here. Now this should come right out in some way or another. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's a snap-in. Okay, there it goes. It pulls right up. And there we are, one graphics card bracket. So, that's out. Let's now try it again and see if this thing will go in. It should. This is a bigger graphics card than I thought, especially considering its more modest performance specifications. But yeah, it fits right in now. Perfect. Okay, oh, the screws were actually left there by the previous owner. That's nice. That would have been nice that I seen that before I started lowering it in place. So let's undo those screws and get them out of the way. And now I can drop the graphics card in place. Make sure this is set open. Again, lining it up with this little metal slot here. Let's make sure I got you in this shot pretty well here for that. Line this thing right up. And in it goes, hopefully. I gotta make sure that this protector thingy is off the bottom here. Good thing I saw that. Maybe this plastic thing to protect the bottom there, which I just took off this thing. So that's exposed now once again. This time, hopefully the sixth time is a charm. There it is, clipped right in place. Now I just take the screws I took out and put them back in. Ah yes, one last thing that I almost completely forgot to do admittedly, and that is to hook up the ever-present and necessary power plugs. So let's see here. I need to make sure I don't cross these. So I got to make sure I have the right amount of plugs. Oh, I hate that. Nah. Well, I hate them bundling these things together because it's hard to tell. P7 and P8. Okay, that's how you tell. This is for P7, this is for P8. Let's use P7 to keep it properly numbered. P7 is all I need. I don't need two plugs, I just need a single one. There's only a 600 megawatt power supply, a 600 watt power supply, so it isn't going to strain anything too much. I'm not quite done with this yet. I'm just looking here to get it going so I can test it out. Then I'm going to upgrade some more things, including the storage on it. Possibly try to do something about the LEDs, although I don't think I can do much about it at this point. There we go. And there we go. Now I have the power hooked in. Though the rise over the top of this graphics card is awkward, but that's how it's designed. So now let's see if I can get the top on without breaking anything. This is a little nerve-wracking because now I have something sticking up on the top of my graphics card as per the design of this case. Okay, this goes in like that. There it is. That's nice and set up. Okay, now, now I can get ready to test fire this thing. Pardon the somewhat awkward shot, but now it's the moment of truth. Will this thing fire up? Well, let's find out. It's running right now. There we go, Omen. There we go. And we are in good shape. Has it detected the graphics card without a problem? And just to show you I'm not full of it, well, of course it's pretty clear I'm not by seeing that, but you can see it's all lit up now. I've got the white Omen logo on it. The front fan is all lit up. This really looks cool running. Inside there isn't very much to look at because currently I don't have the other LED fans working. The top light on the top there is emulating down, which is what's giving all the light here. The one stick has RGB on it. The wiring is a mess, but again, I'm going to redo this very soon. Okay, as you can see right here, I do have it running, but the temps are kind of high. The CPU temp is what's really bothering me here. It's running at 66 degrees on idle, or 65 degrees on idle, and it's spiked close to 80 under load. That's not as much as improvement as I was hoping, but that's on normal fan mode. And I think the problem has to do with this, again, fan for the heatsink, right, for the radiator there. As you see, it's spinning, but it really isn't going all that fast. And I think that's the problem. It's just not a quick enough fan to handle the job. I can put it in turbo mode, and if I do that, the temperature will drop. I'll show you right now. I'm also disappointed to find out there is no actual overclocking available on this, apparently. There's no factory overclock available on the software. Let me go switch this to... Let me go here, go into the fan control, and I'm going to go to turbo mode. Now, as you see, the CPU temperature will now start to drop gradually. Take it a couple seconds. There we go. 64. 63. It'll start to go down from this point on. And if we also look underneath the hood now of the system, we should find that the fans are now have now spooled up noticeably. Yeah, it's spinning a little bit quicker now. Not by very much, but it is spinning a little bit quicker. But that little bit of difference apparently is the difference between this staying cool and not. So I definitely have to change that fan again. Fressa fast. Anyway, I do have this done. I am kind of disappointed, though, that I don't have any overclocking options inside this particular control center. I remember having them before, but I apparently don't have that right now. Oasis, Light Studio... I should actually install those because I need them. Omen Desktop. Yeah, again, I have the system vitals. Fahrenheit or centigrade, I have them set to Fahrenheit because that's how I'm used to reading temperatures now for these things. Lighting is set to red. I have fan control. I have power options, but only to turn the lighting off when the system isn't in use. And then HyperX Fury, which doesn't work right now. So I have to figure out exactly how to kind of mess with everything else here. Yeah, I do not like how hot this thing is idling, and I'm going to definitely have to do work on this. But I'm assuming the problem is that the fan just is not fast enough to push that air out. So anyway, I call this a pretty good success so far. I still have to do work on it to get it to run better. The idles are better, but the temps really are bad. I'm going to have to work on this to get that under control. So hopefully this fan that I've ordered with the red LED will show up soon and I can try that out, and hopefully I get a little bit better temperature performance from this thing. But anyway, at least now I can say it's up and running and it's working. But I wish I was a little bit further along at this point. Okay, here's an update, and probably the final update on this build. As you can see, I've got the temperature a little bit more under control. It's still kind of warm, and that's for on idle, and that's kind of down to the way this is designed. Again, the way HP has this set up as stock, and this is the drawback for using the stock setup, is that the fan, the stock water cooling fan, draws air out of the case and pushes it out as an exhaust, and that's ill-efficient because what you're doing then to cool the radiator is you're passing already warmed air from the chassis through it. But that's what I'm kind of committed to using this. Again, it saved me the trouble of pulling the motherboard, so I'm happy to live with that. The top temperature was pretty high there, and it started spiking over 90 degrees. And I also noticed I had a problem with the system not wanting to shut down right. So after messing around with things, I finally came back to the RAM because I noticed I was getting random crashes on and off. And finally I said, maybe I should try changing that out. So I went to Best Buy and I got this 16GB kit of RAM. It's a little bit of a mess in here because I just tore this apart again. And I installed the RAM to it.
Note, I reinstalled the stock radiator fan to keep things cool.
Right there. This means I no longer have the control of the brightness or the LED settings, at least not with PNY. This is a PNY kit, I should mention. 3200 megahertz, I think that's rated at. Does the job very nicely. I noticed since I installed it, though, interestingly enough, in addition to now actually powering itself down, which is another quirk, I would go to shut this off, and it would just kind of hang and keep running. Now it shuts itself off. In addition to that, I also noticed the temperature's dropped, and that makes sense, actually, if you think about it, because the RAM connects everything up. And if it's not functioning correctly, it's not going to allow the CPU to run efficiently, and it's going to cause the CPU to run with more temperature, and that's essentially what happened at higher temps, I should say, and that's essentially what happened. So fixing the RAM fixed a lot of the problems. I also doubled the storage on this. It now has another 1 terabyte hard drive on top of what was in there, which still exists, the 256. Works well enough the way it is, has enough capacity to play games. I also threw an old rotational media hard drive from my old computer in here just to give me a little bit more storage, and yeah, it kind of works out. So for what this was, building a computer at a time when you couldn't get graphics cards or parts, it worked out pretty well. It was a little bit on the expensive side for what it wound up being, but I think in any way, anything would have wound up more expensive. At least here I can say that I did the work myself, and I have something to show for all that and didn't just get gouged. And I'm pretty sure even if I got gouged, I'd get gouged again, if you know what I mean, with the taxes and everything else involved with buying one of these things at those inflated prices. So anyway, that's going to do it for this build. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep the metal side down.